The most humiliating moment of my life happened at my son's wedding when I discovered he'd hung my photo at the entrance with no entry, publicly marking me as the father too dangerous to attend his own child's 10th celebration. His fiancée, claiming to be a successful cardiac surgeon, had poisoned him against me by saying I was having paranoid delusions since my wife's accident. But I wasn't delusional. I was right. The woman he'd just married was a fraud, who'd stolen identities across 3 states, and the elegant reception hall behind those locked doors was paid for with my $40,000 investment in her fake medical practice. What happened next would either destroy my relationship with Marcus forever or save him from the most dangerous mistake of his life. Before we continue with how I exposed her lies at Savannah's wedding, let me know in the comments, what time is it where you are, and have you ever had to choose between supporting the happiness of a loved one and protecting them from danger? I stood frozen at the entrance of the historic Savannah wedding venue, staring at my own face on a professional photograph mounted beside the guest registry. Below it, elegant calligraphy spelled out words that shattered what was left of my heart. Entry, forbidden, Thomas Washington, by request of the bride and groom. My son Marcus had banned me from his own wedding. The navy blue suit I'd carefully pressed that morning suddenly felt too tight. This was the same suit I'd worn to Linda's funeral 5 years ago, and I'd foolishly hoped it would bring me luck today. Instead, it felt like a costume for my own public humiliation. Other wedding guests slowed as they approached, reading the sign with uncomfortable curiosity. I recognized some faces, Marcus's medical colleagues, old neighbors from Atlanta. Their mixture of sympathy and embarrassment cut deeper than any blade. These people had known me for years, had watched me raise Marcus after Linda died in that car accident. Now, they were witnessing my complete rejection by the son I'd sacrificed everything for. "Excuse me, sir." A security guard materialized beside me, his voice gentle but firm. "I'm very sorry, but I have clear instructions." "This is my son getting married," I whispered, the words scraping against my throat like broken glass. The guard's expression softened. "The bride mentioned you might need professional help since your wife's passing, sir. Something about mental instability." Mental instability. The words Sophia Williams had used to poison Marcus against me. She'd taken my grief over Linda's death, MD, the most vulnerable part of my soul, and weaponized it. Convinced my own son that his father's protective instincts were actually signs of psychological breakdown. Through the glass doors, I caught a glimpse of Marcus in his black tuxedo, radiant with happiness. He had no idea that his perfect bride was a fraud, that the woman he'd pledged his life to had never stepped foot inside a medical school, despite her claims of being a Harvard-trained heart surgeon. But I knew. I'd spent sleepless nights researching, investigating, discovering the truth about Sophia Williams. The truth Marcus had refused to hear 3 months ago when I'd tried to warn him. The truth that had cost me my relationship with my only child. My phone buzzed insistently in my pocket. Once, twice, 3 times. I pulled out the small velvet box containing Linda's grandmother's pearl necklace, the one Linda had always said would go to Marcus's bride someday. My hands shook as I placed it beside my own photograph. "Please make sure Marcus gets this," I told the security guard. It was his mother's. Walking back to my rental car felt like the longest journey of my life. Each step carried the weight of 30 years of fatherhood, of bedtime stories and scraped knees and proud graduation days, all reduced to a photograph with "entry forbidden" written beneath it. By the time I reached my car, my phone showed multiple missed calls and a text message that made my blood run cold. "Mr. Washington, this is Rebecca, the wedding planner. We have a serious problem with payment authorization." I looked back at the venue one final time. Somewhere inside, Marcus was living what he believed was the happiest day of his life, completely unaware that his perfect wedding was built on $40,000 of his father's savings and his bride's elaborate lies. Sophia had made one crucial mistake. She'd assumed that a retired high school history teacher would be easy to dismiss, easy to manipulate. She didn't realize that I'd spent 3 decades teaching teenagers how to research, how to question sources, how to distinguish truth from deception. I started the engine, my phone continuing to buzz with increasingly frantic calls. The woman who'd convinced my son I was mentally unstable was about to discover what a determined father could accomplish when pushed too far. Sometimes love requires making the hardest choice of all. 6 months earlier, I'd been reading when Marcus's face appeared on my laptop screen, practically glowing with excitement. "Dad, I have incredible news. I'm engaged." My coffee mug froze halfway to my lips. Behind him, I glimpsed an expensive Atlanta apartment with marble countertops and floor-to-ceiling windows. Dad, meet Dr. Sophia Williams. Marcus adjusted the laptop, revealing a stunning blonde woman with a perfect smile. She's a cardiothoracic surgeon at Emory, Harvard Medical School graduate. Mr. Washington. Her voice carried smooth confidence, but her eyes kept darting away from the camera, as if reading from something off-screen. I've heard so much about you. How did you two meet? I asked. At the American Heart Association conference, Sophia answered quickly. I was presenting research on minimally invasive valve repair. The words came out like a memorized script. There was a slight hesitation when she said minimally invasive, as if pronouncing a foreign phrase. What's your specialty focus? Mitral valve reconstruction, primarily, expanding into transcatheter aortic valve replacement procedures. She rattled off terminology with textbook confidence, but when I asked about complication rates, she deflected to Marcus. Dad, you should see Sophia's patient outcomes. She's brilliant. Marcus's adoration was painful to watch. When's the wedding? June 15th, Sophia announced. 6 months. We found an amazing venue in Savannah's historic district. 6 months after knowing each other for what? 4 weeks? That's quite fast, I said carefully. Her smile tightened. When you know, Mr. Washington. Throughout the call, she positioned herself behind Marcus, her hand on his shoulder in a possessive gesture. Every medical term felt rehearsed. Every smile looked practiced. After they hung up, I stared at Linda's photograph on my desk. 32 years of marriage had taught me to trust my instincts, and every instinct was screaming warnings about Dr. Sophia Williams. The way she'd avoided eye contact through the camera, the pause before medical terminology, the deflection when I'd asked specific questions. Most unsettling was how she'd controlled the conversation, steering Marcus away from topics that might expose gaps in her knowledge. I'd spent 30 years teaching high school students. I knew the difference between genuine expertise and someone who'd memorized answers without understanding the subject. Sophia Williams felt like a student who'd crammed for a test, but Marcus was radiating happiness in a way I hadn't seen since Linda's accident. How could I tell my son that his perfect bride felt like an actress playing a role? I scrolled through Marcus's social media. Photo after photo of him and Sophia at expensive restaurants, medical conferences, charity galas. She photographed beautifully, always positioned perfectly, always wearing clothes that screamed success. Too perfect, too polished, too convenient. My teacher's instincts had saved me from manipulative people for 3 decades. Those same instincts were telling me that Sophia Williams was the most dangerous person my son had ever encountered. What do you think, sweetheart? I whispered to Linda's picture. Something's not right about this woman. The question was, how do you protect someone who doesn't want to be protected? 2 weeks after that unsettling video call, I drove to the Optimist in Atlanta's West Side district. Marcus had insisted I meet Sophia properly over dinner, and I'd agreed, hoping my instincts were wrong. The restaurant buzzed with the energy of Atlanta's medical elite. I spotted them at a corner table, Marcus beaming in his best suit, Sophia stunning in a black dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Dad! Marcus stood to embrace me, his happiness infectious despite my reservations. Sophia, this is my father, Thomas Washington. Mr. Washington, such a pleasure to finally meet in person. Sophia's handshake was firm, her smile perfect. But again, her eyes seemed to focus just over my shoulder, rather than meeting mine directly. The pleasure's mine, Dr. Williams. Marcus tells me you're doing groundbreaking work at Emory. Oh, you know how residents exaggerate, she laughed, deflecting smoothly. I'm just passionate about advancing cardiac care. As we settled into dinner conversation, I began testing her knowledge subtly. Marcus mentioned you specialize in mitral valve reconstruction. What's your preferred approach for posterior leaflet prolapse? Well, she paused, twirling her wine glass. It really depends on the patient's specific anatomy. We typically assess the degree of regurgitation first, then determine whether repair or replacement offers the best long-term outcomes. Textbook answer. Completely generic. And what about your experience with robotic-assisted procedures? Another pause. The technology is fascinating, but I believe in taking a conservative approach. Sometimes the traditional methods yield the most reliable results. Marcus jumped in eagerly. Sophia's being modest, Dad. She's performed over 200 valve repairs this year alone. 200? That would make her one of the busiest cardiac surgeons in the Southeast. Yet when I mentioned a recent study published in the Journal of Thoracic Surgery, she claimed she hadn't had time to read it. The hospital keeps us so busy with patient care, she explained. I barely have time for journal reviews. Every cardiac surgeon I'd ever met lived and breathed the latest research. It was like claiming to be a teacher who didn't read educational studies. Throughout dinner, Sophia demonstrated an impressive vocabulary of medical terminology, but her responses lacked the intuitive depth that comes from actual experience. When I asked about her most challenging case, she described a scenario that sounded lifted from a medical textbook. Sophia handles pressure beautifully, Marcus said, squeezing her hand. Just last week, she saved a patient who came in with acute mitral regurgitation. It was a team effort. Sophia deflected quickly. Cardiac surgery is never about individual heroics. Another perfect, rehearsed answer. As the evening progressed, I noticed other things. The way she checked her phone whenever medical specifics came up. How she steered conversations toward Marcus's achievements rather than her own. Her knowledge seemed broad but shallow, like someone who'd studied extensively but never practiced. Well, this has been lovely, I said as we prepared to leave. I'd love to visit you at the hospital sometime, see where you work. For just a moment, Sophia's composure cracked. Oh, the hospital has strict visitor policies. Very difficult to arrange tours. Of course, I replied, but made a mental note. Walking to my car, I felt more unsettled than before. Sophia Williams looked like a surgeon, spoke like a surgeon, and had convinced my brilliant son she was a surgeon. But something fundamental was missing, the confidence that comes from actually saving lives. I pulled out my phone and Googled Sophia Williams Emory Hospital. The search yielded nothing. 3 days after that uncomfortable dinner, Marcus called with what he described as an incredible opportunity. Dad, can we meet for coffee? Sophia and I have a business proposition that could change everything. We met at a small cafe near Emory Hospital. Marcus arrived alone, his excitement barely contained as he slid into the booth across from me. Sophia's been offered a partnership opportunity, he began, pulling out a folder thick with documents. There's an established cardiac practice in Buckhead looking for a junior partner. The senior physician is retiring, and they want someone with Sophia's expertise to take over his patient load. I studied the papers he spread across the table. Impressive letterhead, professional formatting, projected revenue streams that made my teacher's pension look modest. That sounds wonderful for her career, I said carefully. Here's the thing, Dad. The partnership requires a $40,000 buy-in. Equipment costs, office renovation, malpractice insurance deposits. Marcus leaned forward eagerly. Sophia's assets are tied up in her current practice transition. She can't liquidate without taking huge losses. $40,000. My entire emergency fund, saved over 15 years of careful budgeting. Marcus, that's a significant amount of money. I know, Dad. But look at these projections. He pointed to numbers that seemed too good to be true. Within 18 months, we'd be looking at a 6-figure annual return. Sophia's patient outcomes are so exceptional that referrals are practically guaranteed. The same Sophia who couldn't answer basic questions about cardiac procedures 3 days ago. Why can't she get a bank loan? The partnership has a 30-day deadline. Banks take months for approval. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Dad. Sophia's devastated that she might lose it over timing. I stared at my son's hopeful face. Marcus had never asked me for money, not once during medical school or residency. He'd worked double shifts, lived in tiny apartments, eaten ramen noodles for months, rather than burden me financially. What exactly would my role be? Silent partner. Sophia handles all the medical aspects. I help with administrative duties during my free time. You'd receive quarterly returns plus full repayment within 2 years. The documents looked legitimate. Professional financial projections, partnership agreements with official seals. But something nagged at me, the same instinct that had kept me wary during our dinner. I need to think about this, son. Marcus's face fell slightly. Of course, Dad. But the deadline is Friday. If we can't secure funding by then, the opportunity goes to someone else. 4 days to decide whether to hand over my life savings to a woman who might not even be a real doctor. That evening, I sat in my study staring at Linda's photograph. What would you do, sweetheart? I whispered. He's so happy, so hopeful. Linda had always been the practical one in our marriage. She would have demanded to see Sophia's medical license, called the hospital to verify her employment, insisted on meeting the senior partner personally. But Linda was gone, and I was facing a choice between protecting my savings and supporting my son's dreams. By Thursday night, I'd made my decision. I wrote the check with shaking hands, telling myself that sometimes love requires taking risks. As I sealed the envelope, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Dad, you're the best father in the world. Sophia's so grateful. This is going to change everything. He was right about that. It was going to change everything. Sleep was impossible that night. I lay in bed until 2 in the morning, replaying every interaction with Sophia Williams. Finally, I gave up and padded to my study. The computer screen's blue glow felt harsh as I opened my laptop. For 30 years, I'd taught students the importance of research and verification. Time to practice what I'd preached. I started with basics. Sophia Williams, cardiothoracic surgeon, Atlanta. Nothing specific. Generic medical directories. But no Dr. Sophia Williams at Emory University Hospital. I tried variations. Sophia Williams, Harvard Medical School. Sophia Williams, cardiac surgery. Each search came up empty. Growing concerned, I called Dr. Jennifer Hayes, Marcus's former attending physician who'd become a family friend. Thomas, it's 2:30 in the morning. Is Marcus okay? He's fine, Jennifer. Can you check if there's a Dr. Sophia Williams working in cardiothoracic surgery at Emory? She's engaged to Marcus. A pause. Give me a few minutes. While waiting, I tried a different approach. Sophia Williams, fraud medical. My blood ran cold as results appeared. Thomas? Jennifer's voice was tight. I've checked everywhere. Staff directories, medical board registrations, surgical schedules. There's no Dr. Sophia Williams at Emory. No record of any Sophia Williams graduating from Harvard Medical School in 15 years. Jennifer, I think Marcus is in serious trouble. After hanging up, I dove deeper. I searched medical fraud cases, fake doctors, romance scams targeting medical professionals. What I found made me sick. Articles about Dr. Sarah Williams, who defrauded a Chicago surgeon out of $60,000. Photos showed a blonde woman remarkably similar to Sophia. Another case, Dr. Sophia Morrison, had convinced a Nashville cardiologist to invest in a fake startup. Same facial structure, same confident smile. A third victim, Dr. Michael Chen in Dallas, who'd lost his savings to Dr. Victoria Williams, claiming to develop revolutionary cardiac technology. 4 different names, 4 cities, but the same face stared back from each article. The same woman about to marry my son. I printed everything, court documents, news articles, victim testimonies. By dawn, my desk was covered with evidence of an elaborate fraud scheme targeting young doctors across the Southeast. Sophia Williams was a professional con artist who specialized in exploiting physicians like Marcus. The partnership documents were fake. My $40,000 was gone. But the worst part wasn't the money. My son was about to marry a predator who'd studied him like a case file, identified his vulnerabilities, and crafted the perfect persona to exploit them. I reached for my phone to call Marcus, then stopped. He was so infatuated he'd never believe me, without overwhelming proof. As morning light crept through my windows, I made a decision that would either save my son or cost me our relationship forever. The evidence was damning, but Marcus would see it as his paranoid father trying to destroy his happiness. I needed to be smarter than Sophia Williams. She'd underestimated one crucial factor, tendizafua, a father's determination to protect his child, even if that child hated him for it. The game was about to change, and this retired teacher was ready to give her a lesson in consequences. I waited until noon to call Marcus, my hands trembling as I dialed. This conversation would either save him or destroy our relationship forever. Dad? What's up? Marcus sounded distracted. Son, I need you to sit down. Sophia Williams doesn't exist as a doctor. Silence stretched across the line. What are you talking about? I researched all night. Called Dr. Hayes at Emory. There's no Sophia Williams on their staff. She never graduated from Harvard. The woman you're engaged to is a fraud. That's impossible. Dad, Sophia shows me her medical records. All fake. I found court cases. She's done this before in Chicago, Nashville, Dallas. Different names, same scheme. She targets young doctors and steals their money. Marcus's breathing became rapid. You're lying. You can't accept that I'm happy. Marcus, I have documentation. Documentation of what? Some internet conspiracy? Dad, ever since Mom died, you've been suspicious of everyone, paranoid about my relationships. The words hit like blows. This isn't about your mother. This is about protecting you from a criminal. Hold on. The phone changed hands. Sophia's smooth voice replaced Marcus's distress. Mr. Washington, these accusations are completely false and deeply hurtful. Sophia, I know who you are. I have photos of your previous victims. Previous victims? Her voice took on wounded innocence. Mr. Washington, Marcus has told me how difficult you've been since Linda's accident. The paranoid thoughts, the inability to trust anyone in his life. I think you need professional help. I am not paranoid. Accusing me of being a criminal? These are classic signs of delusional thinking. I'm genuinely concerned about your mental state. In the background, I heard Marcus's agitated voice. Sophia spoke to him in soothing tones, painting me as an unstable old man whose grief had twisted into dangerous fantasies. Let me talk to Marcus. I don't think that's wise. You've upset him terribly. He's questioning whether you should even be at our wedding. When Marcus returned, his voice was cold in a way I'd never heard. Dad, I think you need to see a therapist. These conspiracy theories about Sophia, this obsession with proving she's dangerous, it's not normal. Marcus, I am not mentally ill. Your fiancé is a con artist. Stop. Just stop. I can't listen to this anymore. Son, please, don't come to my wedding, Dad. If you can't support my happiness, if you're going to keep attacking Sophia with these insane theories, then I don't want you there. The line went dead. I sat staring at my phone, the evidence scattered across my desk like accusations no one would hear. Sophia had played perfectly, using Linda's death and my grief to paint me as unreliable. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd assumed that a heartbroken father would simply accept defeat. Instead, she'd just declared war on the wrong man. This retired teacher was about to give her a lesson in consequences she'd never forget. That brings us back to where this story began. Me, standing at the entrance of that Savannah wedding venue, staring at my own photograph with entry forbidden written beneath it. The public humiliation Sophia had orchestrated was her final mistake, the moment she pushed a grieving father too far. After leaving the wedding venue with my dignity in tatters and Linda's pearl necklace placed beside my banned photograph, I drove straight to First National Bank on Bull Street in downtown Savannah. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the historic district as I parked and checked my phone. 47 missed calls from various numbers, but I ignored them all. Inside the bank's marble-columned interior, I approached the customer service desk with the methodical calm I'd once used during difficult parent-teacher conferences. Good afternoon. I need to stop payment on a check immediately, I told the young banker, whose name tag read Jessica. Certainly, sir. Can you provide the check number and amount? Check number 2,847, $40,000, made out to Sophia Williams. I spelled the name carefully, watching her type each letter with professional precision. Jessica's fingers flew across her keyboard. Sir, if the check has already been deposited or is being processed, this could create significant problems for the recipient. That's exactly what I'm counting on, I replied, meeting her eyes steadily. Understanding flickered across her features. She'd clearly seen this scenario before. Betrayed partners, family feuds that ended in financial warfare. Without another word, she pulled out the official stop payment forms. There's a $35 processing fee, and the cancellation will take effect immediately. Any attempts to cash or deposit this check will be declined. Perfect. I signed each form with the same signature I'd used on Sophia's original check, the irony not lost on me. The stop payment is now active, Mr. Washington. Here's your confirmation number and receipt. I folded the receipt carefully and placed it in my wallet. By now, the wedding reception would be in full swing. Sophia would be gliding across the dance floor in her expensive dress, accepting congratulations from Atlanta's medical elite, completely confident that her deception had succeeded. She had no idea that her primary funding source had just evaporated. As I walked back to my rental car, my phone buzzed insistently. Rebecca, the wedding planner, calling for the 6th time. Soon she'd be followed by caterers, florists, musicians, all demanding payment that would never come. The beauty of Sophia's scheme was also its fatal weakness. She'd convinced Marcus to use my investment as primary funding for wedding expenses. Now, when vendors tried to process payments, they'd discover that the foundation of her perfect day was built on financial quicksand. I started the engine and drove toward my hotel, watching Savannah's historic squares pass by. Somewhere across the city, Sophia was preparing for dinner service, unaware that her world was about to collapse in real time. The woman who'd made her living manipulating other people's money was about to learn what it felt like when the tables turned. She'd used Linda's death as a weapon, convinced my son I was mentally unstable, and turned what should have been a celebration into public humiliation. My phone continued buzzing with increasingly frantic calls. 53 missed calls now, and the evening was just beginning. Sometimes the best revenge is simply removing the foundation from underneath someone else's lies. Back in my hotel room, I sat by the window watching Savannah's sunset while my phone buzzed incessantly. The missed call count had climbed to 68, and the voicemails told a story of escalating panic. The first message, recorded at 7:15, came from Rebecca, the wedding planner. Mr. Washington, there's been a payment processing error. Could you please call back immediately? By message 15, her composure was cracking. Sir, we have a serious situation. The florists are threatening to remove centerpieces. The musicians have stopped playing. Message 37 revealed full chaos. The entire wedding is falling apart. The bride is hysterical. Vendors are demanding cash payments. Please, you have to help us. I poured myself a scotch and continued listening. Through the background noise, I could hear the systematic dismantling of Sophia's perfect day. Vendors arguing, guests murmuring, the hollow echo of a ballroom being stripped. Message 42 came from Marcus, his words slurred with panic. Dad, I don't understand what's happening. Sophia says there's a banking error, but vendors are demanding immediate payment. Please call me back. Message 47 made me smile. Sophia's voice, no longer smooth but high-pitched with desperation. Mr. Washington, whatever banking error occurred, surely we can resolve this like adults. Please, I'm begging you. Banking error. Even in crisis, she couldn't admit the truth. My phone rang again, Marcus calling for the 20th time. This time, I answered. Dad? His voice was broken. Everything's falling apart. The wedding planner says payments aren't going through. The guests are leaving. Our wedding is destroyed. I'm sorry to hear that, son. Can you help us? Maybe call your bank, see if there's been some mistake with the investment money. I took a slow sip of scotch. There's been no mistake, Marcus. I canceled the check this afternoon. Silence stretched across the line. You. What? I stopped payment on the $40,000. Every vendor demanding money was counting on funds that no longer exist. But why? Dad, how could you do this to me? Because the woman you married isn't Dr. Sophia Williams. She's a con artist who's defrauded at least 4 other doctors. She used my grief over your mother's death to manipulate you, then built her dream wedding on stolen money. Through the phone, I heard commotion, raised voices, slamming doors, crying. Dad, you're wrong. Sophia explained everything. Marcus, where is Sophia right now? A pause. She went to handle the vendors. Son, check the parking lot. I guarantee her car is gone. Running footsteps, ragged breathing. Her car, it's not here. Dad, her car's not here. Because professional con artists always have exit strategies. 20 minutes later, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Mr. Washington? This is Agent Sarah Chen with the FBI. We've been tracking a suspect in multiple fraud cases across the Southeast. We understand she was at a wedding in Savannah today? Yes, Agent Chen, though I believe you'll find she's no longer in Savannah. We'll see about that, sir. 3 hours later, Marcus called one final time. His voice was different, older, sadder, but no longer angry. Dad? They arrested her. Sophia. The FBI found her at the airport trying to board a flight to Miami. She had fake IDs, multiple credit cards, and cash from other victims. I'm sorry, son. No, Dad. I'm sorry. You tried to warn me, and I chose her lies over your love. Can you forgive me? There's nothing to forgive. You're my son. I'd do it all again to protect you. The FBI agent said you provided crucial evidence that helped them build their case. How long have you known? Since the night I couldn't sleep after giving her that money. Sometimes a father's instincts are worth trusting. I'm coming home, Dad, if you'll have me. Your room is exactly as you left it. Justice, it seemed, had finally caught up with Sophia Williams. And more importantly, I had my son back. 3 weeks later, I heard familiar footsteps on my apartment stairs. Through the peephole, I saw Marcus with 2 worn suitcases, his face gaunt but determined. I opened the door before he could knock. Dad, can you forgive me? The words tumbled out as he collapsed into my arms, the same way he had when he was 7. Son, you're my child. There's nothing to forgive. I guided him to the couch, where this nightmare had begun with that video call. Linda's photograph still watched over us from the mantel. She took everything, Dad. My savings, grandmother's jewelry that Mom left me. Marcus's voice shook. After the wedding collapsed, she became desperate. Started forging my signature, accessing accounts I didn't know she'd found. The television murmured in the background. Suddenly, Sophia's face filled the screen, not her polished headshot, but a mugshot, hair disheveled, practiced smile replaced by hollow defeat. Sophia Williams, also known as Sarah Morrison and Victoria Chen, faces fraud charges exceeding $2 million, the anchor announced. Federal investigators say she targeted medical professionals through romantic relationships across multiple states. Marcus looked at the screen, then back at me. I'm not her only victim, am I? Rebecca Martinez in Chicago, Michael Chen in Dallas, Jennifer Walsh in Nashville. You weren't her first, but you'll be her last. The FBI says 15 to 20 years in federal prison. I testified at the grand jury last week. Good. She needs to answer for what she's done. We sat in comfortable silence, watching Atlanta's evening traffic. Normal families finishing dinner, living honest lives I'd envied during my darkest moments. What now? Marcus asked. I looked at my son. Older, wiser, scarred, but not broken. Now we rebuild, together. I should have trusted your instincts from the beginning. You saw what I couldn't see. That's what fathers are for, son. We see dangers our children can't see yet. How did you know to keep investigating when everyone thought you were paranoid? I picked up Linda's photograph. Your mother taught me that sometimes love means making people angry at you to keep them safe. A parent's job isn't to be liked, it's to be right when it matters most. Marcus nodded, understanding dawning. She used Mom's death against you, made me think grief had made you unstable. The cruelest manipulations contained grains of truth. I was grieving, but grief didn't make me paranoid. It made me protective. As evening settled over Atlanta, Marcus helped me prepare dinner in the kitchen where I'd spent lonely nights wondering if I'd lost my son forever. The simple act of cooking together felt like healing. Thank you, Dad, for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on you. Marcus, I want you to remember something. When you have children someday, trust your instincts about the people they bring home. Sometimes a parent's gut feeling is worth more than all the charm and credentials in the world. I will, Dad. I promise. Later that evening, as we cleaned dishes side by side, Marcus asked, Do you think you'll ever trust anyone I date again? I smiled, thinking of Linda's wisdom about second chances and healing hearts. Son, I'll trust the right person when she comes along. The difference is, next time I'll know what real looks like because I've seen what fake can do. How will you know? Because the right woman won't try to separate you from your family. She'll want to be part of it. Sometimes the greatest victories aren't the ones that feel good in the moment, but the ones that save the people you love from making mistakes they can't undo. Love endures, truth prevails, and a father's instincts, MS, when trusted, can be the difference between a life built on lies and one founded on authentic connection. This story teaches us that a parent's love transcends rejection and misunderstanding. Thomas Washington's journey shows that sometimes protecting our children means making painful choices that temporarily break their hearts to save their futures. Betrayal stories like this reveal how manipulative people exploit our deepest vulnerabilities. Sophia weaponized grief, love, and trust against a grieving father. Yet God's grace ensures that truth always surfaces, no matter how deeply buried. The most powerful lesson isn't about avoiding con artists, sitter. It's about trusting the protective instincts God gave us. When Thomas felt something was wrong, he didn't ignore that inner voice. Even when called paranoid, he knew God doesn't plant warning signals in our hearts without purpose. These betrayal stories remind us that authentic relationships never force us to choose between love and family. Like the wisdom found in Grandpa stories passed through generations, this tale shows that experience often recognizes patterns we're too close to see. Marcus learned his father's protection wasn't controlling, it was loving. Thomas discovered that God uses our darkest moments to prepare us for crucial battles. The grief Sophia tried to weaponize actually sharpened his ability to see through deception. Grandpa stories like these remind us that elder wisdom comes from hard-earned experience, not outdated thinking. These betrayal stories teach us to listen when family speaks from love rather than pride. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs encouragement. Comment below about a time family instincts protected you from costly mistakes. Subscribe to our channel for more Grandpa stories, celebrating unbreakable family bonds and truth's triumph over deception.